Next up.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi.
So we're ready for the update for Hermosa View. We can move to the next slide.
Matt, you stand down, soldier. I'm gonna lead off here. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I'll introduce you in a quick second. This is very much a joint presentation, and I want to thank Erickson Hall and SVA. And is Anthony in the house still?
He was.
Yeah, Anthony was here. He hopefully he's okay. Tonight we're going to give a joint presentation from district staff and our construction and architect team about where we're at with Hermosa View. This is aligned with a benchmark system that we set up in order to make sure that we are presenting to the board and being transparent with the community about the progress of Hermosa View and the bond measure S. I'm going to talk a little bit about View, and I'm going to talk a little bit about measure S, and then I'm going to defer to Matt and his team in order to get into particulars of the construction update itself. Slide. So in summary, Measure S objectives have been affected by delays and cost escalation. Those are related to litigation, COVID-19, and it's been over the course of now going on six years. The project is still moving forward, but we've hit some. It's been crazy times. like in short, I think we really hit the jackpot when it came to the timing of the Measure S construction project. Nevertheless, I still think it's going pretty well. Hermosa View is on budget and scheduled for completion in August 2022. And the key priorities of Measure S have been or will be accomplished. And we should be really proud of the work of the entire team in the community. It is a story of struggle, but it's definitely a story of perseverance. And I think today's presentation will paint that picture. Slide. So here's the journey, and it goes back to the bond being passed in June 2016. Congratulations to Hermosa Beach community. They've earned it. They've earned themselves brand new schools and facilities. Then you can see here that there were delays in 16-17 with litigation and work through the environmental impact report for North School. That continued on into 17-18. But meanwhile, the district didn't wait. They moved on with projects at Hermosa View and Valley to do work and replacing the roofs. In 18-19, delays continued into the Coastal Commission. However, the work at Valley also continued, and we completed the Valley admin office and exterior fencing and aligned with safety procedures that are in accordance with the Sandy Hook Promise. In 1920, the Vista School construction began. It's formerly known as North School, and that was after a 2-year delay. As I mentioned, that with a 2-year delay like that, we ran into cost escalation. That cost escalation was also exacerbated by COVID. And then that led to supply chain delays as well too, which led into when we were creating the GMP or greatest maximum price for Hermosa View, the costs were remarkably different with COVID, with years of cost escalation, which led to us doing cost saving measures in order to make sure that the main objectives of Measure S could be completed. Construction on View started in April 2021, and we are expecting construction to be complete by August 2022. And we really do believe that the core of the project is being completed, and it will wow people. It is not even like, where are we, like halfway done? And I was wowed when I walked campus just last week. Slide. Here's the bond language. I won't read it out in 2016, but we are committed to achieving those outlined in the bond language. And I think we continue to be on our way to meet what our community believed was the best for their city and for their schools. And we continue to be committed to that work. Slide. So something that has to be mentioned in this when it comes to funds and value engineering, which we did for Hermosa View, is there is a missing piece of the pie here, and that's state matching dollars. We applied for state matching dollars for all of our schools. And there you see a breakdown of potential earnings that we could receive from state matching funds. The problem is we don't know when those state matching funds are coming. So they could arrive next year, year after next year. However, it could equal up to $5.8 million. We do have a plan for those monies. There is work at Hermosa Valley that was part of the 2014 GKK facilities master plan, and we'll prioritize those items in order to achieve them. And I'll talk a little bit about that later as well. Slide. So this was the original projection construction costs in 2016. Slide. Here is the Measure S budget created in 2019. And there you can see the estimated total cost of the project was $60 million, still within the Measure S funds budget. Slide. And here are our expenditures to date, which we are still within our budget. And as the work continues over at Hermosa View, what we are currently projecting is we will come in right at budget. We will use the money that is allotted and likely all of our contingency money as well too in order to complete the Hermosa View project. Slide. So just to kind of explain again or to relay just what happened in relation to why is it that the project is coming right in on budget? Why is there no extra? And there's a lot of reasons for that. I think a lot of them are related to the litigation, which led to delays, and then that was compounded by COVID, which led to even more cost escalation. When we talk about cost escalation, besides just the legal costs, it's materials and labor, the NTMP, which had a lot of off-site improvements at the North School, now Hermosa Vista School. And there you can see the cost escalation over the last 6 years. And I mean, if you look at 2021, just recently, that cost escalation, which I'm sure everyone has experienced in some way, shape, or form, the impact of the supply chain issues worldwide. Slide. So final cost of Measure S, there we are. Bond revenues, 60 million, current expenditures is 44, an estimated remaining cost is 16. Something that I don't want to get lost here as well too is that we were able to sell bonds at a fantastic rate last year. So there is a happy part to the story, which is that we are saving our taxpayers millions and millions of dollars because of the rate that we were able to sell our bond at. So that is the good part of the story, and we talked about that at our board meeting I think last year when we did our sell. So I think the long-term fiscal health of the bond is great. I mean, like in relation to what was the unfortunate aspect of building a school during an international pandemic. Slide. So the Measure S objectives, here are the core of the project. You can see that Hermosa Vista is complete. That construction was from 2019 to 2021. There you see Hermosa Valley, the work that was complete. And you can also see that a lot of the work afterward was also completed, including the exterior upgrades and the parking lot completion. The thing that's looming is classroom modernization. And that will be one of the items on the docket if and when we receive the state matching funds to work on those classrooms at Hermosa Valley to make sure that they are up to the same level as our other two campuses. Slide. There we are at Hermosa View. You can see that the modernizations is in progress. A lot of technology work being done, new roofing, which is already completed, and then the major parts of the construction that are in progress. And something to note too, in the building C, D, and E, which are existing buildings, we will have modern HVAC systems to make sure that our students are breathing the cleanest, most filtered air. And then finally, the district office, this is the want loser in the whole deal, that we will not be relocating a district office onto Hermosa Valley. That's okay. I'll keep my district office people cozy and close wherever we end up landing, which I will talk about later tonight. Slide. Thank you. At this time, I'll take any questions.
Thank you so much. Starting with Stephen. Sure. Doug.
I don't have any questions. It's just been a great job by the team here, the prior administrative team. It has been a slog, a 6-year, almost 6-year slog, but we are almost there. So thank you, particularly to Jason for picking up the mantle and not letting anything slow us down. And we will get there. So much appreciated.
Thanks, Doug.
Had some PTSD on that litigation slide. not gonna lie,
yeah, I wasn't gonna mention that.
Jen.
Yeah, thank you for the historical context again. It was it's good to see. It's good to just have as a document, I think, for even future projects too, to think through. Thank you to everyone who continues to work on this. I feel like it's a real team effort here. And I know Matt's going to go through his part, so excited to hear how that's going.
Thank you, Jen. Good luck, Matt.
Fun.
Just a quick highlight and thank you for a real clear presentation. As the rookie here, one of the things that I, and prior to that, a interested but probably casual observer, I had a hard time connecting the dots about why we were doing cost engineering of the schools and whatnot. And I think, you've highlighted it clearly here that when the bond was passed, there was a clear expectation of, additional funding, substantial additional funding coming from state matching funds. And that's caused a lot of, hiccups and adjustments that had to be made. And kudos to the district and its partners, Erickson Hall and SVA, for finding a way to get things done, despite the fact that, the expected funding was way short of what we had expected when we passed this. Thank you.
Thanks, Quinn.
Stephen.
Absolutely brilliant. Let's do it. Let's build the school. Nothing else.
Thank you, Steve.
Okay. Moving on to Matt.
Thank you, board. Good luck, Matt.
Good evening. Appreciate the time. We're excited at the progress, and we're here to talk about it. So next slide, please. All right, and one more slide. So we're going to go through the update. We're going to talk about the schedule, next step, and timelines, and then any questions. A couple things that Dr. Johnson mentioned. The HVAC work and CD&E are underway. This picture on this slide shows the units already being hung. That's a great milestone. There's a lot of HVAC units that are hung up in supply chain issues or still at the factory missing parts. So this is a huge milestone, having all the units on the site. So next slide. So GMP review. Final GMP in February of last year was $23,320,800. Total contingencies was almost 1.2 million. To date, we've used roughly $820,000. So we're running out of the money. We're through a lot of the value engineering and designs that we were waiting on from DSA with revision 1 on the drawings and things like that. As we worked down to a GMP that was within the budget, there were a lot of assumptions that Erickson Hall made, as well as SVA giving us ideas as to where we could cut pricing and still give you the product you were expecting. So we had carried a design contingency, and we're utilizing that as we're finishing up the changes and as DSA approves final revisions of drawings. The picture on the left shows where we were at in October. We were just getting ready to pour foundational concrete. And the center picture right here is we're on the second floor. We've poured the deck. and we're backfilling against the first floor, getting ready to do the second floor deck up above on grade. This is a huge milestone. Give you an idea, the dirt that we're backfilling against the building, we just reached the 10-foot mark. So this was a substantial hole in order to build this building in the hillside and do what we needed to do. So huge milestone, really good stuff. Next slide, please. And again, just kind of showing where we are at. Framing on F1 was moving along, and we had just poured the slab on F2. Here we are. Now we've got both buildings framed, roofs on, and we're putting on stucco. So really moving along on F1, F2. Bottom slides, again, we were in the ground, starting foundations, and now we're up to the second floor, moving on. So really the team on site, the subcontracting community that we have on the job, they're really pulling together. They're working extremely efficient. SVA has been a great partner as we're moving through any issues that come up. So really pleased with everything that I'm seeing out on the site. Next slide. Couple items that we're seeing with the construction. We're actually tracking right now with a building B finish of August 16th. Building F1 and F2 are well advanced of our baseline schedule. We're going to finish late March into April. The kitchen additions finishing in May, which is again well in advance of what we need to get the district moved in. Site work has been a little bit of a struggle with some utility work, the earthwork, and just getting the buildings finished far enough along to where we can remove scaffolding. So we're moving along. Current completion date for the entire project is the 23rd of August. We are looking at again, significant early completion on F1, F2, as well as the modernization work in C, D, and E. So we can give a lot of opportunity for the district to begin moving into those buildings well in advance of this. Next slide. We had identified early on last June of milestones to anticipate as we moved forward for my board presentation. I believe in October I had mentioned building B would be looking a little bit late or behind schedule, if you will, because of how we were looking at concrete and steel and things like that. A couple things have come up since then. We are behind, as you can see from our schedule update on building B. We had to resequence some work in order to allow our steel contractor to move ahead and help us with the second phase of building B. So we took a little bit of a step back in order to help us in the spring and definitely during the summer accelerate to the finish line. Again, you can kind of see where we're at on the left with building B and where we're at now on building B. As we're looking at January, what we were looking for in the kinder buildings was starting the exterior plaster. We're actually complete with the color coat on F1. We have siding, the lap siding on one side complete. We've removed scaffolding. The second building, F2, I think we're going to do the color coat later this week, early next week. So F1 and F2 are definitely moving along. We're utilizing every opportunity we can to get whatever work that is open completed. We're anticipating in March, kinder buildings will actually be into finishes. We won't even be talking about exterior lap siding. We'll be into paint, tape, texture, and signage and that sort of thing. The site, since the scaffolding started to come down around F1 and F2, we're immediately shifting into site utilities and grading in order to get the fire lane in, hardscape, ramps. We've got a lot of differential elevations and to get to the buildings. We're working on all of that, and we're going to be working our way out of the back end of the campus with our utilities and our paving. Play area, we are looking towards into April to start setting the play equipment in the back at F2. So those will be significant milestones as we move forward that you can visually see as you walk the site. June will be pretty much accelerating to the finish line. Goal is to have all of our non-building B work complete with the exception of the site work out front and in between B and the kitchen area MPR. So we'll be just working in those areas to get everything done. The back end of the campus will be complete and roped off and ready for the district to use as they start moving in and getting ready for the start of the school year. Off-site work will continue through the summer. Couple items I'd like to just bring up. I'd like to have just a shout out to Board of Education as well as the City of Hermosa Beach for working together to allow kind of a relief and an expansion of the work hours. We're going to be good neighbors and not abuse the privilege. We are going to be extremely strategic in utilizing those extra hours, and definitely as we approach the summer and potentially spring break, those type of things, we'll be utilizing those hours in order to accelerate the work product in building B and the MPR stuff as we're finishing up. When we get out into the site work, we'll be extremely efficient. We've got game plans. Nat Riddles, the superintendent, along with Anthony, they're coordinating with the city, and we'll be ready to have all of our equipment and materials set, ready to go, so we can knock that out. Next slide. So our next steps, we've got just a couple more hiccups in terms of infrastructure, and I shouldn't say that. We've got an irrigation design. We're just waiting on Cal Water to approve the connection, and then we can finish up as we export the soil and finish grading out the fire lane. We can start working on irrigation and cleaning up the backfield and getting that ready to go. The district's utility provider for the fiber service, we're tracking a July connection date. I'm sure Nancy's already working her magic to accelerate that, and we're here to help. If they need anything, we'll be ready to go and help them finalize the fiber service. We do have a challenge with DSA. We're third round with an elevator review. That's always kind of a challenge with DSA. They're looking at different things. I believe we're all set up, have all the questions answered to where we can move forward and be ready to drop that in as we finish the tower for building B. And again, as we're finishing up and pulling down scaffolding around F1 and F2, the utility installs across the campus will be going forward. Fire service is the last utility coming down the fire lane. So that'll go in right away. And then again, we're making grade, getting curb and gutter in, and then start paving that, getting that playground in the back at F2 set up and ready to go. And as I said earlier, HVAC units are already being hung in the building C, D, and E. So that's what we're expecting as we're moving forward. We're going to be pretty much fast on our feet and utilizing our ability to work extended hours and still be a good neighbor for the district. This picture right here is the first floor of Building B. Now that the second floor has been poured, we can already start framing, start putting in our utility rough ends and getting that ready to go since the concrete's already poured up top. So that's a good thing. Again, gives us opportunities to work in other areas and not impact the critical path of the work, which is the second floor foundation. Next slide. Again, this is kind of a roll-up schedule update. We're looking at a 23rd of August. I will tell you right now, we have used 5 rain days. We still have 5 in there. If we end up not being impacted with any more rain, that goes away and we're already back into the 16th of August, picking up a week. So there are things we can do. Offsite improvements, breaking that off of what our utility connections are, that could actually give us a little bit of float that we can capture on the work. Game plan is to have everything ready for the district to move in early at F1, F2, C, D, and E, NPR, and kitchen. And hopefully we're into ring out and final clean in late July, early August, to where we can just turn Building B over to the district earlier than the start of school and have everybody in and ready to go on day 1. And with that, next slide. Thank you again for the opportunity to talk with you. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Matt. I'm going to start off this time with Quentin and then go down the line.
Okay.
Right now, thanks, Jen.
Yeah, no, thank you for really addressing the schedule questions. You hit all the ones I was curious about and how to get the time back. So I'm sure you spent a little extra time on that one tonight for me. So thank you.
I'm looking at it too. We made a deal, so we're going to do everything we can. And again, the board and City of Hermosa Beach working together to allow that relief of the extension of the work hours is a huge thing. And we're not going to abuse it, but we're going to use it as we get closer. We're going to need that time.
Thanks so much, Doug.
Yeah, no, thank you, Matt. You've hit on all my main questions also. And I want to thank you and your team for being so flexible as all of these things come up. I take walks by there, once a week, and you notice like the steel is kind of laying on the ground. And it's good to hear like we pivoted to this, we pivoted to that as each of these issues come up, because we know Jen is after you after those dates, as are the rest of us. She's just a little more vocal about it. It is so important to us to make sure that this school is ready to go for, first day of school is September 6th, but to move in and be ready to go before that. So we really appreciate everything that your team is doing. Obviously the team here, Nancy, Paula, Jason, and the whole crew. It seems the finish line is in sight. Let's just finish strong, please.
Now is the time to really start running as we get some areas going. Just maintain that momentum again. And you mentioned it, Nancy and the staff out there with our team and with SVA are really working together and in the same direction and really helping us keep the momentum.
I see you. I'm going to go to Stephen first and we'll cycle back around. Stephen.
Thank you, team. We meet weekly, so it's sort of moored in a lot of the detail, and it was really exciting to go and visit the campus. But I'll just start off actually by saying thank you, more thank yous. Not only you are key partners, especially the amount of work and collaboration that's gone into this. Obviously, a lot of learnings that were gained also out of the Vista project that have been applied to this project. I think it's sort of worth noting. The city, our key partners, the neighbors. I mean, going through any construction project, there is a certain amount of dust and noise and shaking. I know I'm sort of in that neighborhood. And I just want to say thank you. Also to the team, I know they do a lot to mitigate those factors. And also PTO. I mean, all of our community, I mean, it really does take a village, but our PTO are already planning ahead to get marquees up and libraries filled and these new schools looking absolutely smashing and brilliant come the new school year. So a lot of thanks and appreciation. I guess I'm sort of cautiously optimistic and on things. I am, there's a lot of possible things in there with approvals, DSA and so forth. You've got 5 days where if it doesn't rain, we can pick up a week, but what are the known unknowns that could sort of potentially derail us? Because right now it is only a week going into, for final completion. I know that Jason, I think, is going to talk to site moves, correct? Or sort of organizational updates leading into the construction. Is that right?
That'll come later. But I can answer any questions about it, just about the tentative plan.
Yeah, okay. So I guess to Erickson Hall, I guess just a question around the knife edge on the timing, and what can be picked up, especially with the extension of work hours, et cetera, but without what can we expect at our next milestone check-in?
The next milestone check-in, you're going to see the kinder buildings pretty much complete. We're going to have finishes going. You may not have you won't have final connection on the internet. It'll be connected up to the mainframe and everything, or the main trunk line. Final connections and ring out will come when your service provider lands it, but we'll be able to test it out and have it ready to go. So those two buildings will be pretty much substantially complete, with probably maybe the exception of maybe window shades and things like that. C, D, and E, I am optimistic that those will be, if not complete, substantially complete and into ringing it out, making sure everything's working right and going into final clean. B will be we'll be working on the framing on the second floor and closing up the front entrance with the storefront and the large windows on the first floor. Utilities out front will be going full bore. It'll still look like a mess from the street, but if you're up in the back, you'll start seeing grade is made. You'll be looking at, potential seeding of the field, play structures starting to go in and finishing those up, and fire lane pretty much complete. May need a seal coat left. So you're going to see from the back end, you'll feel pretty good about the whole thing. From the front end, you'll think there's no way. And just letting you know right now, you're going to hear about it. But that's the game plan. We're going to work our way out of the back and focus everything on the front end pretty much from about April on. And we've already talked with our trade partners and the teams that have a game plan to be strategic in working the additional hours and keep everybody going. If we have painting slowing down the other trades, we'll bring the painters in on the weekend, where on Monday we can have 3 different trades working in those buildings and they're not waiting for paint to dry. So it's going to be that type of planning and thinking as we're moving forward. Tile is a big thing for restrooms. We'll probably have the tile guys working weekends so the plumbers can hang the plumbing fixtures during the week, and then we can roll right into the toilet partitions and that sort of thing as we're finishing up.
Excellent. No further questions.
Thanks, Stephen. Quentin.
Matt, there we go. Matt, thanks for that. Those tricks and strategies you just outlined. Let me ask Stephen's question in a slightly different way. He was asking, I think, in some ways about kind of what are the risks we need to watch out for. I'm curious about what are the opportunities we have to mitigate those risks further. There's the 5 days of rain time, but I also was pleased to see you guys were actually able to complete things early. I don't know how many more of those rabbits are in the hat. And I guess that's what I'm curious about is, I know you don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but the 23rd feels really tight to the school timeline. Subtract 5 rain days, and we're at 8/16 if there's no rain. But what other rabbits are there in the hat? Do you think it's realistic to think we could end up being a week or 2 weeks or even 3 weeks earlier? Or, will it be miracles to get us to the 23rd?
I don't think it'll be miracles to get to the 23rd, but I'm not going to promise 2 or 3 weeks better than that. We need to be out of the ground with our utilities. We need to have our utility service providers working with us on final connections and inspections. And I know Nancy's been spearheading that, and that's a huge, huge help to us and to the team. The faster we can get out of the ground on the back end of the campus, the better we can mitigate risks. Unknowns are underground or in existing buildings that we haven't had a chance to open up walls or ceilings. So the faster we get through that stuff, we're out of the ground with the buildings, the new buildings. So that's pretty much a controlled construction area and that we can mitigate and understand any challenges that come up. And again, the SVA team's been pretty strong on helping us get through some of these things as we're moving forward. But the faster we can get out of the ground and get pavement down, the better. And, utility providers are always a bit of a wild card. But I'm confident it's not worse than the 23rd. I believe the 16th is a doable date, but I'm not going to promise anything more than that until after I get the next schedule update and start talking with the guys a little bit.
Never mind promises. Do you take bets, Matt?
It is Super Bowl week.
Oh, Rams. Jason, I saw you had a comment.
Yeah, I just have a few quick things. One is thanks, Matt, for the strategies about getting earlier. And I think that the earlier we can finish, the better. One thing I want to point out is that we are planning on a phased move, which I think has been highlighted here. So it's going to be a little bit of a different scenario that we're faced prior, which I'll explain in a second. But the phased move is that we're going to move we can start moving in as soon as, based on this schedule, late June, which would be the end of when school. The only reason that's holding us back is school ending, into the kinder buildings. And then into June and July, we can move in buildings C, D, and E. So the only thing remaining would actually be building B. Erickson Hall has already been great partners when we were moving into Vista. But like that phase move, will be challenging. But I just kind of want to remind us all that we moved 2 schools in 1 week, and then we opened full day instruction at the exact same time. So when there's a will, there's a way. I actually think even the 8/23, though I wish it was earlier, is considerable cushion for us considering what we've been through, as Paula gives me dagger eyes. So I just so for the public though, just want to put in perspective that this isn't our first rodeo. Like, we've done this and we've done it successfully. Yes, it was hard, but I actually think that we're in pretty good shape. And then finally, I just want to acknowledge Nathan Complin is in the house here, and he has been a big part of the reason of why we're at where we're at, as well as Nancy Bartolo is in the audience here, is probably one of the only reasons we're at where we're at. And then on the Erickson Hall team, who are not here, Nat Hazard, Jason Prescott, and Anthony Hahn, who was here earlier. They've just been incredibly creative and workable. And I have to say, because we joke, we called Nathan Complin doom and gloom. But that's because he is always cracking the whip and just trying to sniff out anything that could possibly cause a delay. So I really want to give credit to Erickson Hall that we were like, hey, we have to finish on time. And they've put people on this project that have been extremely aggressive, even to the point of driving us crazy about getting the project done. So I really want to credit the Erickson Hall team and Nancy for pushing. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I want to follow up. Were there more questions from you, Quentin? No? Are we good on questions? Matt, thank you again to you and your team. Nathan, thank you again to you and your team. Nancy, thank you. You are a team. And a giant thank you to the neighbors for helping us get this through and for the next iteration of Hermosa Schools. So with that, we'll close down that report.